I wanted to give you a little sense of what HSPT class would look like, let you see behind the curtain, if you will, a little bit, and kind of just show you how I would run the online class. And obviously, it pertains a little bit to the in-person course because, they're definitely similar. And all the in-person kids would still get access to all the online materials to help supplement the learning. So let's just kind of take a quick look at the HSPT. All right, so here's a little problem from I think this is the second section on the HSPT, the old quantitative section. So here, what you're trying to do is you're looking at this series of numbers. Sorry, I have a little trouble with my pen. You're looking at this series of numbers, right? One, then two, then zero, then one. So then just mentally in your head, you're just trying to think of like, what's the pattern here? It could be division, it could be multiplication, it could be addition, it could be subtraction. Those are usually the big ones, just the basic four, adding, subtracting, dividing, and multiplying. And here it looks like you're adding one, right? So plus one, and then subtract two. So you just kind of mentally, you don't have to write it down right away, but in your head, you're like, okay, well, how do I get from one to two? Yeah, it could be multiply by two, but it also could be add one, right? So add one, subtract two. And that, sometimes it's the pattern's two sort of operations long or three operations long. It can be four operations long, but usually three is the max. So add one, subtract two. Add one, plus one, subtract two. And then we're at add one, right? Add one. So to get from -1 to 0, we added one. Now we're at subtract two. So the answer would be -2. Now, I guess the other one way you could go wrong here would be to kind of go ahead and add one. So we would consider A the attractor and with C being the answer. All right. So most of that work's kind of done in your head, getting used to the patterns. All right, let's take a look at another one. This one is also from the quantitative. I call this a translation problem. So once you guys take your algebra class in your 8th grade, this will be pretty easy. You probably have a whole unit on this, translating English sentences into algebra. Is always your equal sign, okay? What number is 3 less than 1/3 of 18? So some of this is done in your head, but what number is your x or your n? Your variable. What number is your variable? Is your equal sign. And so pretty much everything to the right is going to be the work that you do. All right. What number is 3 less than 1/3 of 18? So you want to wait on the 3 less than. And can you do this in your head kind of? What is 1/3 of 18? 18 divided by 3. Or, what is 1/3 of 18? 6, right? And you could do that on the side if you wanted to, because you always know that of means multiply, right? I'm a little trouble with my pen. Oh, sorry. 1/3 of 18. All right. So you could cross cancel, make that a 1, make that a 6. All right. Anyway, but the long and short of it is that 1/3 of 18 is 6. And then just be really careful about the question, right? Because, 6 could be one of my attractor choices, which it's not. But anyway, what number is 3 less than 6? Well, A, right? 3 is 3 less than 6. What number is 3 less than 1/3 of 18? And some of you guys are going to be able to do that in your head. Some of you guys are going to be able to write it down a little bit, but between those two, you should be able to understand that one. And then I would just call this one, this is from the 5th section or the 4th section, the mathematics section. This is just some general knowledge. The number of milliliters in 1 liter. So there's kind of like the milliliters are the small ones, like tiny milliliter. And then the kind of the basic unit is the liter. All right. And then kind of the bigger side would be a kilo, like a kiloliter, a kilo, a kiloliter is like so the liter's the basic. This would be a liter of, here would be a liter. I try to show you that I would take screenshots. I would try to bring in like visual aids. So this would be like a liter of lemonade, right? I know in this country we use gallons or we use quarts and stuff, but this would be a liter of lemonade. But if you only wanted to have like a little sip of lemonade, you might get like a little, 30 milliliter sip, right? So anyway, these are milliliters. These are the mLs. The small little units. All right. And then a kiloliter would be a ton, right? That'd be like a lot of lemonade. That'd be like 1,000 pitchers of lemonade. So milliliters are small, liters like the basic unit, and then kilo would be large. So the number of milliliters in a liter, and just kind of knowing, like they want you to know some general knowledge, like mille means 1,000. Like a millipede is a little insect with It's obviously hyperbole, but 1,000 little legs. So the number of milliliters in a liter is 1,000. All right. And these would be attractors, like somehow, like if you thought that they were milliliters were big, which they're not, these would be attractors kind of. So the answer would be B. And then I just wanted to show you a little bit about kind of the language section. This section, for some reason, gives students trouble. To me, the language section is not too hard as long as you kind of, essentially, it should be called the grammar section. You're looking for grammatical mistakes, right? So you want to read each sentence with a critical eye, looking for a grammatical mistake. All right. My cousin Margie, I don't know. My cousin Margie is an artist and a musician. Well, why do you need that comma there? You're really interrupting the flow of the sentence, right? My cousin Margie, so that would be the mistake. Like, no need for that comma. All right. And then you don't even have to read B and C or D. D is just no mistake. So one way to kind of be efficient on this test is if you see a rock solid mistake in A or B, that's it. That's the answer. All right. In 267, sometimes students have a problem with like 267 because maybe they auto-corrected or they look at the obvious. They overlook the obvious, I mean. My landlord is coming to pick up the rent check. That's fine. There's no mistake there. But in B, right? Does Professor Parker live on your street? Well, I mean, there's nothing wrong with it other than there needs to be a question mark. And that's the answer. If it's a question, it has to have a question mark. You're asking a question. Does this professor live on your street? So that's the answer. So don't overlook the obvious. Don't auto-correct it in your head. And finally in 268, Randall will head out. This is kind of a concept, like the answer is going to be A. All right. And this is like a grammatical concept that you need to know, like what's called the compound sentence. If you have a complete thought, if you have a sentence, like a complete thought, you need a comma, a coordinating conjunction, and another complete thought. So if you have two complete thoughts, you need a comma. Randall will head out first. That's a complete thought. Randall will head out first. All right. Comma. And Julie will follow him. As long as Julie will follow him, as long as that's a complete thought, then that's what's called that classic compound sentence, and it needs a comma. All right, so the answer is A, and there's nothing really wrong with B and C. All right, so that's kind of a little preview of some of the material on the HSPT. All right, and then I just wanted to show you kind of what the website would look like. Sorry, this is just the Zoom, but I just wanted to show you what the website would look like and kind of your access as a student. So here would be the summer online course. If you ever have to miss class, like right after class, I post Zoom. All right, so this is last summer's class number 1. So right after I taught the first class, I posted it. It was a little long, Mr. Dugan, an hour and 15 minutes, because it was the first day. But most of the classes are right about an hour, 45 minutes to an hour. All right. And then sometimes they look a little shorter because I've paused the video and I've had the students work quietly on something. And then we unpause the video and we grade it. So class will usually take about an hour. There are some quizzes after each class here. And then after that, there are little sections like this is in section 2 is just kind of introductory materials with bonus videos that you can watch. Section 3 is on verbal with some bonus videos that you can watch. And I'll be adding more as I go. Section 4 is about quantitative and some bonus videos and some bonus things I will post. Section 5 is on reading comp. Section 6 is on, section 7, I don't have a section 6 up there yet, but section 7 is where I put all the practice tests. So you have access to a complete digital practice test, and I think I'll be adding a second one. So that's kind of how the course works. And then, by the way, you would have access to this, like you would have access to the online materials like for about a year. I would probably take away the access sometime like a month or 2 after you took the HSPT. So I want to make sure you have access. Even if you're taking the summer course, you have access to all the online materials until, well into the new year. All right. So that's just a little idea of how the course would look and how, the course works. I hope that helps. And I will see you guys in the course.